Maybe that's
All right. Well, hello, and welcome to Intercultural Spark, that show about the spark inside you, inside everyone that drives you to spark change in the world through mission-driven businesses and life projects. We, this year, have started a new series called Tech Talk, which is where we bring in people who are experts in the field of just different things going on in tech so that you as business owners can know things coming down the pike that, like, which ones do you have to know, which ones do you not have to know, as we prepare for the future. So today is actually one of our Tech Talk series, and I am Deanna Schaas, and all these questions about tech. I already know everything. I'm asking for a friend. But I hope you'll share your questions in the comments. Today, we are joined by Chris Bijou and Kelly Jenkins. Chris is the CEO. Kelly is the VP of Partnerships and Investor Relations at IOE Corp. They are the top provider or the top in the area of the Internet of Things, and an Internet of Things company. So what's interesting is that neither of them is actually like a tech or a software engineer. Actually, both are very deeply knowledgeable about business process and strategy, and they both have a really strong focus on revenue and optimizing revenue. So they are here today to tell us about what is coming in tech, how to prepare, and given their backgrounds, I hope they'll share how we can make some money through it all. So welcome everyone to Intercultural Spark. Hello. And I always do this. There we go. That's one thing nice about technology. I can just pick people up and move them around. But I always like to give my guests, the top billing. So, well, welcome both of you. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
Oh, my pleasure. So I just want to talk, and this is hard. The first two questions I have are supposed to be like really fast ones to lay the groundwork. And I feel like that once we start explaining with tech, it always feels like you can go so deep. But I'm going to ask Chris, we talked about the name of the show, The 7-Year Itch, because you had shared that every 5 to 8 years or so, like the whole system of technology changes. And those are the times when people really have to change. And you showed a great slide that I'd love to share. Can you just quickly walk us through that?
Sure. Yeah. No, I'll open it up right now. That'd be great.
Okay. So I'm going to add to the stream. I love that. That's like what we're trying to avoid. Wait, we're trying to avoid what we're seeing. Right. Which is you just get sucked in and you're gone forever.
It never ends.
Right. That's the metaverse forever. So can you see my screen now?
Yes, absolutely. It is full for
great.
everyone to see right now. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the background on this, just to give you 2 seconds on the background, is each time that change happens, we have these massive change that happens in business, and there are companies that make it through the change or through the chasm, and there are companies that don't, and those companies basically go out of business. And you've seen that, like you said, about every 5 to 6 years, 7 years, there's a big platform change. And so the first one was the internet itself. And interestingly enough, back in 93, 94, 95, when we would explain the internet, most companies actually didn't think it was a real thing. They didn't even, partially because IBM and Apple fought the internet. They did not like the World Wide Web at all, because they wanted people to go on there. So people think Apple and Microsoft jumped on the web, but they really didn't until about 2000.
Oh, that's really interesting. Okay.
So that was the first big chasm. Basically, the idea, if you were you either got on the internet or you didn't by 2000, and then if you didn't, then you were kind of in trouble, right?
Okay.
You had a big disadvantage. So then the second big change that happened was the social change, where it's not just social platforms, but it was the idea that for the first time, other people could talk about your business and market your business without you as a business owner being able to show people.
It's
So
just so funny, actually, just being in public relations and marketing. That
uh,
was a huge shift for companies who still thought either that they could control the message or, and I love this one, you've seen politicians get in trouble with this all the time, where they think, well, I can tell this group one message and another group another message. Like,
that's right.
absolutely not. Like, don't
Yeah,
even think
that's
that you can
exactly
do
right.
that still. Mhm,
Yeah, it was the first time businesses lost control of the message, right?
mhm. Yeah.
That's exactly right. So, but what it took, what you're seeing right here is they were global platforms and global operating systems that you had to go on to actually be on the internet and then be able to convey those
Mhm.
messages, right?
Okay.
So then, about 2013, you saw the mobile
Mhm.
change, and
Wait, can I just point out one
yeah,
thing
go
too, Chris? I'm
ahead.
laughing so hard because a lot of what I do or when I talk to business owners, like business owners that are doing second act careers, that are like, I really need to get on like Facebook, YouTube, and social. So for anyone, just I'm actually even blushing as I say it. Note those years are '06 to 2012. Okay. I'm just saying. All right, go ahead.
It's
Yeah.
time.
It's
Oh my
time.
goodness.
Yeah,
Oh.
it was
Mhm,
15 years ago. So part of that is there was new operating systems, iOS came out, Android came out. So you think
mhm.
of those, they couldn't use, say, Microsoft, right? Or
Okay.
Windows, right? You had to come out with something new and a new platform. So that's where this came. The other thing that happened, we put two of them on. There aren't quite operating platforms, which
Mhm.
is Amazon and Microsoft, but they were so key to um, the cloud itself and moving data across the internet um,
Okay.
that
Sure.
that's what we had that. So okay, so now we're into a new era, and this is the era that's going to change more than everything else that we've done over the past 30 years on the internet, and that is we're about to change into a new platform where you're interacting with devices and nodes and embedded devices in a way that you've never done before. And if you think about it, what it actually means is before we would have this change that would be you had to go work with tech. Now tech is going to serve us, right? So it's the
Mm.
opposite, right? We it's hard to sometimes get online. It's hard to do things. Pretty soon it's going to be you'll have 1,000 different connections to the internet that will be serving you every single day. Your car will have thousands of connections and sensors in them, things like that, right? So you'll be interacting with millions of sensors that will be trying to serve you or trying to control you, one of the two.
Mm.
Right?
Well, that's actually one so actually 2 things on this. One, when we originally spoke that pre-internet, because I still see sometimes where people put their website into an ad and they're still writing www. Like that
Mhm.
didn't you tell me that like doesn't even exist anymore?
Well, no, the World Wide Web still obviously exists because that's what's on this. But what people don't realize is they don't
Mhm.
realize that the web and the internet are two different things,
Right, right,
right?
right, right.
They're
Yeah.
completely different. So the internet is what is actually the wires, the fiber, it's the protocols that run the data. The World Wide Web is a marketing app, right? That sits on top of it that allows for, Facebook and Google and stuff to market stuff to you. So this is completely new because what we've created here over, these last years, and it's taken so much energy and time to create, is this new platform that doesn't sit on the web, that's for devices that allow you to interact with devices safely. The web will never be secure. The web was
Mhm.
designed 30 years ago. I mean, nothing on your phone today is 30 years old except the web.
Interesting. And one other question, you had one other question, one of like 1,000 other questions would be, and by the way, people who are watching live, I really encourage you to use the comments. You can say hello because we don't know who's here unless you say hi, and you can ask questions live. Speaking of fun and new things you can do on the internet, um, this whole idea of it sounds like what you're saying. So right now the model is the cloud where you're encouraged to put your information out into the cloud and they'll care for it for you. But but you're saying that no, that you actually will control these things and the internet will serve you. How will that work where someone actually is able to do that and yeah, without it being overwhelming? And did I say it right? Is that a
Yeah,
cloud
close. So
versus an internet of everything?
yeah, so the Internet of Everything is the combination. So IoT, when you think of IoT or Internet of Things,
Mhm.
IoT is just that you've got a device and it connects to the internet. That's what IoT means. Just device connects to the internet, node connects to the internet.
Mhm.
What IoE is, or Internet of Everything, is you're going to see all of these people, structures, systems. They all have to interact. Artificial intelligence. They all have to interact. It's not just our connection to the internet. It's this whole way of interacting with new platforms. So the biggest piece of that is
Mhm.
there's two different lines of thought, right? The first one is that everybody's going to say, hey, Facebook controls the metaverse, right? Because the metaverse really is just a big marketing engine, just like everything else is,
Mhm.
but VR glasses,
By
right?
the way, sidebar, I'm reading
Yeah.
the book Snow Crash right now because I just found out Snow Crash by I think it's Neil Stevenson or Neil something,
Mhm.
is where the metaverse. He wrote this book in 1992. If you have not
Yeah.
read it, it is freaky how much stuff he envisioned that is around today. But I think that's where the term metaverse was coined,
Mhm. I
if I'm
think
not
you're right. I
yeah.
think that's right.
So
Yeah, and if the metaverse itself, the ideas and actually the building of it, I mean, Second Life was around 20 years ago, right? And so
mhm,
it's been around for a long time. What's making it new is marketing, and they're trying to market the new technologies like the glasses and things like that. But what they're not talking about is like we can host metaverses, right? IOE Corp could actually host those and secure them, because ultimately those two lines of thought is
mhm,
either Google and Facebook and Amazon are going to control everything that you do when you interact with the internet, or you're going to use,
mhm,
Internet of Everything, and you're
mhm.
going to control your own information,
Mhm. So
right?
technically a business, and I know you probably work a lot, I'm imagining with bigger business now that are setting up systems, but technically a small business could, let's say, hire a service like IOE Corp to manage all the connections of the internet to their company. Is that
Ultimately, that's exactly right, because
okay?
they'll run it like think about it as an operating system that you can't
Mhm.
hack, right? And
Okay.
that's your own operating system. So instead of saying, I have Android on my phone and that operating system is owned by Google, and that Google now controls my data, right? This
Mhm.
is when you go on us, then you control your own operating system. It's sort of like, Deanne's operating system, right?
Mm.
So it's not somebody, a large corporation controlling it. You control your own information.
And so ultimately you would actually own all your own data and stuff as well then, correct?
Yeah, there's going to be data that obviously when you're out there interacting with
Mm.
things in the world, that data is going to interact with you as well. But you're right. You need to control so much more of those interactions than we do today.
Mhm. The concern is, of course, that it'll be really time consuming, or you'll do things that you inadvertently cause problems. So,
Mhm.
thanks, Brianna, for that. Actually, and this is the only time I'll ever be able to share this story because I swear it fits in conversation. But Second Life, if people don't remember, Second Life was actually like a metaverse where people could have avatars and go into this world, and you had to pick a name. And so I picked a name. Her first name was Ilya, Ilya. Her last name was Sass, Sass. And I thought, ooh, I'm thinking sass like sassy. And then I looked at it and it was like, oh my God, it's Ilya's ass. I was like, I still am like, I still wonder, like, is that gonna bite me? Do I need to like find out, does Second Life even exist? I'm like, I gotta get that
That's
out.
funny.
All right. So yes, be careful when you pick names and wonder how things go.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, I'm going to shift for a second, but I'm sure everything you've just said opens up a gazillion more questions. But I want to talk to Kelly for a second because what I find interesting, given both your backgrounds, and I'll start with Kelly, is that both of you have backgrounds in like business systems and generating money. So I'm hearing this as where's tech going and what are we doing with tech? How is driving revenue at driving a lot of this, I guess, per se?
Well, ultimately, anytime that you work with an enterprise company, or in my particular case, I'm focusing on healthcare systems, obviously profitability is the name of the game at the end of the day. And as we take a look at revenue, we need to make sure that whomever ends up eventually being a member or hosting IOE corporation on all of their devices. It's done for an ultimate purpose in order to increase really the experience of all their customers, to increase the efficiency of their operations, and to increase the profitability of their company. So it absolutely is designed to be more efficient, because it's all about data. It's all about moving data safely. It's about moving it more efficiently. And when you're able to do that, then you can improve your operations all the way around.
Mm-hmm. So it feels like, I will say, so first of all, I have to tell you, and I'm so sorry. Well, it's good to have a skeptic who's interviewing you about what's happening. Every time I get something from, like, particularly from Google, Facebook, and when they go, for your convenience, like anytime someone tells me for my convenience, they want to do something for me, I know it's not for my convenience. Like, I know it's for that. I'm thinking even technology that wants to consolidate all your logins, let's say to log in everything through Facebook. What's your sense? So I guess, is there a question in there? I don't know. Maybe I'm just complaining. But I guess, yeah, where is that balance between it's for my convenience, but it's really for a company's convenience to be able to know more about me? Who wants to take that one?
Well, go ahead, Chris, and I've got a thought as it relates to healthcare.
Oh, no. Yeah. So you have to think, the purpose of those big companies is to market to you, right? So everything that they're doing is to try to market something to you. So you're exactly right. They're saying, hey, we'll hold all your data, we'll hold all of your information because we want to market more to you. We want to get involved in your life as much as possible. So that's the whole purpose of it, right? You have to think of the Internet of Everything as the embedded systems that are out there that are all going to be around you. And they need to have a life, right? So that they can interact with you. You're not going to have a few systems, you're going to have thousands of them.
And just for practical things, and maybe it's just me who is like Captain Obvious, but when you talk about embedded systems, ultimately it could be that chip in your head. I'm not doing it, but it is. But an embedded system literally is a chip or something that's inside your house, your refrigerator, your car. It's the system that lives inside of something that's serving you one way, but that is gathering data to be able to grow or be better. Is that how you would define an embedded system?
Yeah. So think of, your doorbell now is smart, right? But in your doorbell or in your house, let's say you have cameras, right? Well, who's on the other side of that camera? Right. This is kind of scary, right?
So that is,
Siri,
yes, that is a
right?
big
Or
question.
Siri or somebody that they're listening devices, right? They're devices that have video and things like that. So they're surveillance devices. Well, the last thing you want is to have these large corporations be in control of your surveillance devices. You need individual control of those devices, right? So a hospital needs to be in control of all of those devices. Think about, there was an insulin pump, and I'll give you this quick story, and then Kelly can jump in here too from the hospital side. But there was like an insulin pump that some guys went through, and they got in. This lady was just in her room, and they put a malware in her insulin pump and shut the whole hospital system down. Then shut 6 other hospital systems down through her insulin pump.
Wait, this was a malware attack, like someone who did this on wow.
Yeah, on purpose. And how they got in was through that device, because that
Wait,
device,
and is she okay? I'm like, that sounds like.
And so that's exactly right. So think about, as you get older, or you start to have more and more of these telemedicine, you start to have more and more of these devices in your home, or you have these connected devices on your body, right? Then somebody could get in and control that, and they call it killware. We've actually had some of the first examples of people dying from killware.
Really? Oh my God. Okay, just give one. I know it's so easy to. Is it just KILLWARE, killware?
Yeah. So there was an attack that happened on water systems, 6 different attacks that happened on water systems just in the last year, where they've tried to put chemicals in the water that it would kill you, right? There was the Tesla cars that were taken over, and they ran into a semi truck, and the guy died, right? So think about all these embedded systems and all these systems. You have to have a system that cannot be attacked like that. So our system doesn't work on the same structure. And so you can't put a malware on it. It's impossible. You can't put a DDoS attack again. against it, things like that.
So here's a question. Let's just look though, again, now going back to, because we're using the term they a lot, or kind of things that feel really big business. So now I'm looking at, micro entrepreneurs, less than 10 employees. So it's smaller businesses. Most of their clients are people they maybe even know, they're through referral. So what does that mean? What are 3 things that, let's say, a small business person should do or could do to stay in business? It sounds like all this stuff you need to. The short answer I'm hearing is you better pay attention to this, or someone's going to kill you while you're like sitting in your smart recliner.
Well. I mean, I don't know how we got to killware, but maybe because we were using a medical example.
Sorry, that
the
was
whole
me.
idea of healthcare is to make you healthier and not to kill you. So that's the goal.
That's what, like Brianna, another thing to worry about.
Believe it or not, the goal of hospital systems is to
is to help you be better.
And not to die.
Okay, we can all agree on that. Go ahead.
If we can use that kind of as a starting point. There's some actually kind of cool examples on what small business could do within, like, let's say, this gigantic systems of healthcare, right? And when we say a healthcare system, that's not just the hospital. That's the insurance company. That's the, it's the billing. It's just everything. It's the doctors. It's your aftercare. It's all of that. And so we kind of talked about this a little bit, Deanna, is that for your particular clients who are small business owners, there's 2 options, right? You either provide healthcare options for them, even as a small company. You still want to provide healthcare benefits for your employees. If you don't have employees, you have 1099s, or sometimes you maybe just even want to offer just some sort of financial benefit, and then the people, their employees, can go on their own and buy their own healthcare from a private, manner. And either way, we all need healthcare at some point. So at some point, we all have to interface with either a clinic or a doctor or, some sort of healthcare. And so if you take a look at a healthcare system, the entire system, there's really 3 different things that are super important to a system. Number 1 is patient privacy. And that's a big deal. And I lead with that because it really overlaps with IOE Corp. So patient privacy is super important on both sides, both for the patient, but also for all of the care providers. So there's that. Then there's the outcomes, so that they don't die. We're going back. They don't want killware, so they don't want they don't want their insulin pumps being the victim of a malware, but B, they don't want their patients to be part of that as well. So it's in a healthcare system's best interest to be able to have security things in place to avoid that. But as far as outcomes, I don't know if a lot of people realize, that those are measured. It's not measured just what happens when you leave the hospital or you leave to have a procedure or even a doctor's office. It's measured if you come back in, and do you come back in for a follow-up condition that happened as a result of that. Those are huge metrics that drive increased costs. So if we take it full circle back to the to the ability to actually control costs, you want outcomes to be really great. And so say, for example, a system would have embedded all of everything that it's a device within that hospital system, whether it's the patient privacy records, whether it's the insulin pump we just talked about, whether it's the air filtration. A lot of people don't realize that air filtration is super important for diseases and infections to spread, because we all hear about infections coming from hospitals. So when you take all of the different devices and everything that's measured in a hospital system, if it's running on IOE Corp, then it helps all of those. It helps decrease costs.
Oh my gosh. You're totally triggering me though, because that is actually, and we're going to go, I can't believe we're already at the point of looking, but you're triggering a lot of things though, because healthcare is definitely an area where people want to control their own thing, just because of and we'll have you back to talk about health and healthcare, because there's
we should talk about telehealth at one point, because that's what small businesses can do. They can offer telehealth.
Well, and actually, I have
on the screen, which is cool because it's Chris in front of a refrigerator that stores blood and vaccinations and all different types of things that can be monitored in addition to patient privacy.
Well, we're actually going into what we call our Flash photo stories, which is where you have sent me some photos ahead of time and I flash it on the screen and you tell me a 1 to 2 sentence story about what's happening there. So what is happening in this picture? So there's a fridge with blood samples and what's going on?
What this one was that we have a top 10 IoT company in the world that wanted to add artificial intelligence to be able to know if the compressors or if the refrigerator was going bad before it went bad. So imagine instead of having the
Okay.
nurse rush in, and fix it, you could have a maintenance person say, hey, this is going to go bad in the next 30 days, schedule it. So we added this. So there was one of the larger companies that had they had spent 3 years trying to develop this, that was one of the big companies that you would know, and we did the whole thing over a summer in
That's
90 days.
great. It's interesting when you talk about systems that are doing maintenance. I know you've talked about smart cities that are looking at fiber optics, even for running traffic. When you talk about systems that are designed to predict when something will fail, so that God, that would be great for bridges and things like that. I totally get it. It's Kelly, when you start talking about how it works in healthcare, I'm like, no, sorry, I don't trust that healthcare has my interest. And it's just there's so many things related to it. Yeah, and it's also just like you're talking about really personal things about how you're doing health wise, but it seems like it may be comparable, whether it's a system that is designed to prevent maintenance on things. I mean, ultimately, I guess healthcare may look at how you predict, let's say, when people will potentially have issues or problems. So that's a trigger for me.
We'll talk. There's ways to navigate around that.
That's like the movie Gattaca. I'm getting all my science. See, I can't help but get all my science fiction stuff with this. All right, what's going on here?
This is actually super cool. So I just returned back from United Arab Emirates, and there was World Expo in Dubai. And every country had a different type of exhibition or pavilion. This is the Swedish pavilion. And I had to take a picture of this because as you walk into it, you can see welcome to the Swedish forest. On each one of these, once you get inside, on each one of these tree trunks, there were these, you can see on the right-hand side, everyone had like a little insect, from a forest, and that's a QR code on that particular beetle.
Oh, cool.
And if you look at that QR code, it's how a smart city, a smart country, a smart system can beat cancer through data sharing. And that's really, and it was fascinating how the entire expo, every country was all about sustainability, about using data more safely and efficiently. And it's so fascinating to see what different countries are doing in order to really
that must have been really exciting.
Oh, it was fascinating.
Really exciting.
Yeah,
so,
it was great.
Yeah. And Brianna says the fridge has to exist. We lost everything in our fridge. A few years ago when it broke down while we were on vacation. There you go. So practical application. Somebody could have anticipated their fridge breaking and then probably fix it remotely while they were gone. They wouldn't have even known that it happened. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? That's a lot. I bet there would be a lot of disaster averted kind of things by having smart cities or connected devices.
Yep.
So
speaking of smart cities.
Yeah. This is actually the groundbreaking of an area that is going to be a smart city. And this is me standing on that ground and how we were going to help them to turn this into a smart city with all the infrastructure, and they'd be running on Internet of Everything Corporation to not only secure their city, but make it incredibly efficient, incredibly livable. But it's fun to see it come up from the ground, right?
Right. To see that mounds of dirt and be like, this is a smart city. What makes it a smart city? It feels when I say everything's connected in the city, what does that actually mean?
Yeah. So this is the big thing, right? Is people have been trying to make smart cities for 25 years, and there aren't any smart cities yet. There are surveillance cities, which nobody wants to live in, right?
No, right.
China's trying to make surveillance cities, and then if you jaywalk, then you lose your job, right? I mean, it's that kind of stuff, right? It's really scary, right? And certain cities around America and around the world are starting to look at some of those same things, and those would be terrible to live in. The smart city that we're talking about is that think of everybody controlling their own data and interacting the way they want to interact, and then everything also becoming efficient, right? So if there's sensors that are going through the pipes in the water system. You could tell, do we have chemicals in the water that we don't want? Is the pipe going to break? So we
Right,
can
from the killware. You could detect
right.
the killware.
Well, and just efficiency, right? Because you want, right, and cost is a huge factor there.
God.
There's been a lot of smart cities that have tried to do stuff where they do traffic flow, and it costs so much money for the AI and to run the traffic flow through the cloud that nobody can afford it, and they have to shut the systems down. It's not that we can't do it; it's just too expensive to run.
Sure.
So
Wow.
in our system, you don't have that problem.
This is so cool. So this is Kelly's you. That's you looking at your self avatar.
Yeah, this actually is super duper cool. And so there's a concept of digital twins, and digital twin has been used up until recently in like buildings, physical structures. For example, this is a super awesome story. So this particular company, this was at the CES conference just the first week in January,
which is the Consumer Electronics Show.
The one that Chris and I and our team just got back from.
Great.
And so the particular company that was doing this demonstration for the people, just kind of going through, remember when Wuhan first talked about the outbreak and no one really knew what was going on in the world? And they actually built a hospital in 1 week in order to put all of these people in there. Well, that's an example of what a digital twin would do in a facility. And so this particular company that sponsored this, they actually built a building digitally on just online, so they could test everything. They could test airflow because nobody knew how contagious it was. They didn't know how the vents are going to work, and so you use a digital image in order to help a physical facility. Well, the newest thing is digital twins for people. So you'll love this, Deanna. So this will maybe take your skepticism down a little bit. Well, maybe not at first, but over time it will.
I always think of a science fiction movie, like that one where people send their avatars out into the world because it got too dangerous to go. There's always a science fiction movie that I think of.
There always is, right. but this is real life, and this is actually really cool. So this is my digital twin.
Okay.
So if this were a real life example, and so a digital twin of my body, which can encompass, so it's a 3D rendering, but it looks at both internal and external things. So a good example of, there's like maybe two fast little examples. I'm a breast cancer survivor, and because of the medicine that I'm on, it affects my bone structure. So I have to have a DEXA scan every 6 months just to see if my bone structure is okay. Well, there's radiation each time I have that. Eventually, if there's this digital twin of me, then with all the data points that they collect over time, my need to have a DEXA scan every 6 months will go away. So that because those data points learn from each other, they find where there's missing data and fill that in through AI and all this other really cool stuff.
So that's what I'm thinking. The way that would work then is if AI is like predictive learning, if you have a digital twin at a point in time, AI would then let your digital body continue to evolve the same way that you would in real life, so they can look at it there. I guess every once in a while you'd have to check you to see if the AI was right, but that's the concept behind.
Well, you do, but the concept, and so the concept will eventually get to like your particular business owners. This will eventually get so it can help all of us through our wearables. Because when Brianna asked about what is Internet of Everything, Internet of Everything is the umbrella over all of Internet of Things. So all of your devices. So for example, we all have, devices right now. We're going to have so many more devices in the next few years. And so as we get wearables, for example, even someone's child who's out, playing soccer, a digital twin, you can have an app on your phone that starts to look at like the load bearing on their knee. And so they don't want to, do activities that might
could you do like a sorry, I've completely gone into like science fiction terror land. I am so sorry, because my immediate thought is, oh my God, could you have like something that would be like stranger danger? Like if someone was approaching your child, like you'd get a little beep going, someone's getting too close to your child. Like
I'm not going to say yes or no to that, but
you know what you are hitting on, Deanna, though?
Thank you for not saying, you know what you're getting completely out of control about, Deanna? No, what am I hitting on that's really smart, Chris?
No, I think what you're hitting on is actually really smart, which is we don't, what this is starting to do, and this comes back to the original thought of technology is going to start serving us where the ideas of what we have can then be built in real time or very quickly versus right now it takes 5 years of development to try to do something like what you're talking about, right? Very, very shortly, because we're going to have so many sensors and so many devices connected, then, and the way that the platform works, you can now, because it's an operating platform, you can now say, I want it to serve me like this. And then very, very shortly, you could say, I want it to be, hey, if somebody gets too close, or if I want to look at someone's knee or whatever. We have no idea how explosive this is going to be over the next 10 years, because people are going to come up with all these amazing ideas. And now the connections to the internet will be, quit worrying about if, you can even add a new device because it's going to shut your company down, right? Quit worrying about if you can program that device because it takes 4 years of development.
One thing that's based on data, so that's why as we all learn, to your business owners, your clients, the more you can learn about data now, because we're all going to have the ability soon, and particularly through IOE Corp, and we'll be able to move, monitor, and mine and protect our own data.
One thing that would be interesting, because actually I just sent out a newsletter this morning, was talking about the idea of change. I'm looking at a brand name change in the coming weeks. One thing that would be interesting is to be able to run that through and see if and see what the outcomes could be. I do hope there's some checks and balances though too, because just because you can, like, sometimes we don't think of the eventualities that would be a problem. We are actually so totally out of time and overtime. What is this slide? Because we still have one more thing that we have to do. Wait, to use a really old-fashioned word, what's this slide?
This is just part of one of a few team members that were at the CES conference with us. But these are engineers that are young and just
smart
and brilliant guys that are all coming up, and it's just fun to see the talent that's out there that's new and fresh.
Sure. Cool. And the opportunity that you have to diversify those that are getting involved in tech for women, people of color. Like, really, I think that's also a huge opportunity as well.
It really is. And what's fun is these guys are from all over the world. They're not in one place. And like, we have several women on the team that are just brilliant. And it's fun to be able to, bring them in and because the diversity is the fact that we can just say anybody's available. Anybody can come and work here if you're brilliant.
Yeah, sure.
If you're nice,
if you're brilliant. All right, we are at the final section of our show, which is our flash exercise. And what I do each week is I also am a group fitness instructor, so I teach aerobics. Like, I teach 8 classes a week, and so I like to do interpretive aerobics. People don't know the deeper meaning of fitness. So I'm going to do an exercise. I'm going to make me full screen for a second. I'm going to do an exercise, and I'm going to ask you to join me, and then you can guess why I picked this exercise for this show. Okay.
Awesome.
So, and I like it. I'm like, hello. But I want you to be able to show. I think I just wanted to do that. Oh my God, which is now probably on the internet forever out of context. All right. Here's my exercise though. This is it's an isometric pectoral exercise. Isometric just means you're not changing the length of the muscle, but what you're doing is you're putting your hands together, so in front of you, and then as you squeeze and put pressure between your hands, you'll feel your pectorals, the muscles of your chest, contract. So it's a squeeze and a release. I'm going to bring everyone back and ask you to do it with me. And I invite anybody who wants to do it with me here. So it's a squeeze and a release. Can you feel your chest and right into your arm? Can you feel it contracting your pectorals?
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Why do you think that I selected that? Why do you think, actually Vipin says hello. Why do you think I picked that exercise for this show?
Probably because we're at our desk all day long and we need upper body strength, and that actually helps your posture as well.
Oh, sure.
So as you're doing that, you sit up a little straighter, and so we all need to be able to have good upper body mobility.
I think that's a good one. Chris, do you have any ideas?
Oh, I was just when I was doing that, I was thinking to myself, "Wow, I need to exercise more." Because I could feel that. I was like, "Wow."
You're like, oh, okay.
I need my chest to be built better.
Also, equally good. Fitness is a good thing to have as part of your day. So the reason I thought of this is, first of all, is because we're talking about everything being connected. So an exercise where, and look at that, you have to be connected, and plus those systems work together, right? And then if you turn it up like this, it's like,
Great,
oh,
Paul.
wait,
Thank
please,
you.
oh, please, please, please make it all be good.
And gratitude. This is also gratitude. Grateful
Yes,
for the
and
new
gratitude that we
technology
have so
and
much
good people to work
opportunity and
with. Thank
Very
you.
cool.
technology. I love
That's
it.
very fun.
Well, thank you both so much for being a part of the show. I think that I and everyone who's viewing, we're going to have to go back and watch it like 8 times to like get down. That was so dense and so much information, but really exciting. So thank you both. It was delightful to spend time with you, and good luck with all that you're doing. And I'm sure we'll be seeing all of it as things continue to move forward.
Thanks so much,
So,
Deanna.
thanks so much.
Thanks, Deanna.
It was a blast.
Sure.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you.